Great. Well, welcome, Andrea, and welcome everyone else who is going to join us via the recording later. My name is Garrett Westlake, and I'm the Executive Director of the Da Vinci Center for Innovation here at Virginia Commonwealth University. I'm super excited to talk a little bit about the Masters of Product Innovation program tonight. I'm going to kick things off and then turn it over to Allison and Mary Chris, who are going to be able to walk you through the specifics of the program. But first, I just wanted to say, we had a pretty big event in Da Vinci last week. It's where I'm standing, not in real life, but virtually today, which is the Shift Retail Lab. So last week we had the ribbon cutting, hence the big red ribbon behind me, for the Shift Retail Lab, which is a 2,700 square foot facility for students to showcase product, services to the public, gather feedback, as well as engage in sales. And this space we always knew would be a game changer for our program, given that we do product innovation and we now have our own retail lab in which to do that work. But it was actually watching our students in the master's program in their student graduate assistantship roles preparing for the opening that was so impactful. So what you see behind me are there were 15 different companies represented selling products, services. They were nonprofit, for-profit, social impact. I mean, you name it, it ran the gamut. And master's students in the Product of Innovation program actually helped to curate and meet with all of those founders. And so students in this program had a chance to take what they're learning about product innovation and help fellow students, some of them in their own program, some of them from across VCU, prepare to open this one-of-a-kind facility. And so the design, the business cases, the pitch practice, the operations of how we would do the day, all of that was put in the hands of our students. And I think that really speaks to what we are doing here at the Da Vinci Center, which is, you may have seen our tagline, we don't take tests, we take risks. And that's what that looks like, right? So when we opened this space, I talked a lot about how this is the classroom of the future. And I really believe that. I really think that this space represents our commitment to real learning, applied learning, but really taking to the next level, which is, what does it mean to design a product or to work on a team that is putting something on the shelf, meeting with members of the community? Over 250 people came through the doors and interacted with these founders and had a chance to see their designs and their product innovations. And that's what it's all about. And so, this accelerated program, this 13 or 18-month program that you can do around product innovation, I really think is prototyping the future of higher education, the future of business, the future of industry. And I think our students' outcomes reflect that. So students have graduated from this program and gone on to launch companies like you see behind me. They've also gone to work in industry and have led product for HBO Max and CarMax and Capital One, Fortune 500, Fortune 100, as well as small startup companies that are very mission-driven, like world-changing impact organizations or seeking to be world-changing impact organizations. And so I'm really proud of the cumulative effort that goes into making all of those different pathways available to students, and that we now have some facilities that are the first of their kind in the whole country. No other university has a space like the Shift Retail Lab, and we're just starting. So there's still so much to learn about this, and students are going to be the ones to teach us what it can really do and be. So there's my spiel. I'm glad that you're joining us. I really appreciate your interest in this program. I think you'll find that one of the things we really value is the human experience. I think we're educators because we care about people, and our program is small by design so that we can really invest time and energy into the people in our program. And I think that brings that's why our faculty teach in this program. That's why our student services and administrators and everyone involved with Da Vinci does what we do, is because we care about students, we care about the student experience. And if we teach user experience and we teach user design, like, we need to bring those things into our process as well. So we try to mirror that as best as possible. So, Andrea, not to put you on the spot, but since you are here live, you get a chance to take first crack at asking any questions. Either feel free to drop them in the chat or go ahead and ask me. If you have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, I will turn it over to Allison and Mary Chris.
apologies. I would turn on my video, but I'm in my home clothes, so I'm just at this moment I don't have any questions. But thank you.
Sure. Like, you have a great profile pic though in Zoom. It looks very inquisitive. I'm like intimidated by your level of like academic rigor and curiosity. So I love that.
Gary, can I ask you a question as
Yeah.
part of this? So just, flying off the cuff, why not? We end up doing that pretty often when you're the host of things. So might as well throw your curveball. I would love to hear you talk a little bit about kind of how far we've come in the last like 4 years. Shift is so big, and we are seeing a lot of interest and a lot of visibility in the community and just kind of all over the place. And things are starting to ramp up. But when you first joined the center, this program was 2 years. It wasn't 13 months, and we made this big shift. And there's been a lot that has happened since then. So maybe just a little bit on the growth and what you've enjoyed about that, and maybe some of the things that we've done to improve student experience.
Yeah. I think I'm really proud of the fact that I think a lot of it is grounded in empathy. When I first got here, it was a lot of listening to students about what the experience was. And I think our program hopefully mirrors a lot of what you see in the most progressive, future-oriented companies, which is there was an older model of like what R&D looked like. And I think that in its earliest stages, this program was built more like an R&D unit, like you'd find in a traditional Fortune 500 company, because that's what innovation looked like, right? Your R&D department led innovation, and it looked a certain way and it felt a certain way. And I think then you saw, like, I come from more of a startup background, right? Like, having been a tech founder and spent time in the tech space launching a startup company, you realize how agile and how nimble and sort of future oriented and customer and user experience based startups are. And I think I brought that experience to this like more traditional R&D environment. And it's the same shift that large corporations are making too. So large corporations are moving away from their traditional R&D departments and being more cross-disciplinary, more agile. And so when I look back, I see that those are the exact things that we've implemented. We've gone to embedding design thinking in the program, offering certifications in design thinking, all students being certified Scrum Masters, I think speaks to our commitment to agile and agility, and just the ability to step seamlessly in and out of, like, if you're working for Ford or HBO or Capital One, you kind of need to know what's happening at Tesla, what's happening at, Venmo, like all these other places are influencing what the future looks like, and being able to seamlessly connect what's happening in the startup space to what's happening in the industry is really valuable. And I think that's what we've seen throughout the program is students having both industry experience where they're solving traditional corporate Fortune 100 problems, but easily at home with startup companies and teams of 5 people who think they're going to change the world. And I think that I'm most proud of the evolution of the program away from more of that traditional R&D model to a very agile design thinking, user experience based program that allows our graduates to be whatever they want. And that's not to sound, like you can be anything you want. Like obviously what you come in with and what you gain through the program matters, but really that idea that creativity and innovation are things that everybody wants, everybody needs, but are hard. They're not just buzzwords. There's a science to it. There's a strategy behind it. And I think we're really grateful to have faculty that are practitioners that do this every day, that do this in those settings and come into the classroom to say, this is what we're doing at Canon. This is what we're doing at CarMax. This is what we're doing at Pfizer. This is what we're doing, at Startup Virginia, at Lighthouse Labs. And I think that gives you the real world experience that our students benefit from, that allows them to step out of school directly into those industry or real world roles because our students have done it. And I think that, but the agility, I just really like this, like Shift is a great example, right? Like it's one of those classic, like it's not a big idea. Like a retail laboratory where we've had science labs forever, where chemistry students learn chemistry in a classroom and then they do chemistry in a lab. And why would students learning product or marketing or design or any of those fields not learn it and then directly apply it in a retail environment that's run by the university? It's not a brilliant idea, but it says a lot about how hard it is to implement that. Like, we have the first one. And so I think that that speaks to just like the ability to really push for the facilities and the opportunities that we know students need to be successful.
Excellent, thank you. That brought out a whole lot of details that I was going to hoping that you would talk about, which is pretty great. But I mean, talking about our students becoming more agile and diverse, I think it speaks well to the students who have been in the program before and can make a complete career change from where they were in their undergraduate space. We have biomedical engineers who go work for financial tech companies. We have criminal justice majors who have invented physical products and also run business strategy for companies like Xerox. There's almost a chameleon kind of thing that they're capable of doing once they've gone through the program and kind of learned this mindset and these different tools and tricks to really think more innovatively and to do it through empathy. And it's so across the board. I guess it makes sense that our students go off and are chameleons, similar to what we can do in our program, very easily shift and shift. It just keeps coming.
Right, it keeps going up. I know.
Perfect. That's fantastic. Well, thank you for answering my question.
Yeah. And I'll just add one final note, which is I'm going to be leading some design thinking workshops. So we have started offering some micro credentials through the Da Vinci Center. So we have one in Introduction to Design Thinking. And as we look at our own processes, right, we're like, what could be changed about the application process to graduate school? And so what we're going to do is sort of like take a new look at what is the user experience. And I'm going to be running, coming up here in December, an opportunity to both teach a mini workshop on Introduction to Design Thinking and go over some of the principles that we use in the program. Participants will actually earn a credential via Credly that shows up on LinkedIn, that free of charge to you. And then I'm going to talk through like the application process and how that relates to our sense of design. And I think that's a different way of applying to graduate school, that you actually get part of the program through the application. So we're piloting that. I'm excited about that. So that information about how you register for that will be sent along in follow-up materials. So if you're watching this later, know that you're going to have an opportunity to register for that design thinking opportunity with me that we do for-profit and nonprofit partners all across the country, and get some insight information on how the application works. So look for that in the weeks ahead. Great. Well, thank you all for having me. And Andrea or anyone else that has questions, feel free to email me directly, or Allison or Mary Chris. We are all here at your disposal. We do this because we like people and students. And so we are at your service. So use us. All right.
Thank you, Garrett.
Thank you. Bye.
So, Mary Chris, want to bring up our slides?
Can you see those?
I can, sure can. So I imagine everyone else can too.
Awesome, thanks.
Excellent. Thank you for being active, Andrea. I really appreciate that. So looking, if you want to flip to the next one, Mary Chris. So ultimately, the Da Vinci Center, if you haven't heard of us or haven't done a lot of research, we are an applied cross-disciplinary, team-based innovation organization, I guess. We're more or less an academic and a service center at VCU, but we have undergraduate certificates and we have a graduate degree, the MPI, which we're here to talk about tonight, and then also have a graduate certificate. And ultimately, all of these programs center around innovation and cross-disciplinary education. So arts, business, engineering, humanities and sciences, medical. We'd like to bring smart people from all different places in order to solve problems. And whether those are your problems, that if you want to start a business or try to launch a product, we can help you with cross-disciplinary education there and the real applied methodology to hopefully successfully launch a product or business. Or we commonly side on industry too, where students get to work on industry sponsored projects and understand what it's like to do, to solve problems, real world problems. These are not just meant to, oh, these are students, these are just problems that we don't care about in the organization. No, these are actual problems that we seek out from these organizations with the intent for them to go forward. So students really become consultants. They become the experts on innovation to share with these groups. And you don't have to have a background in the subject matter of the problem to be a smart and creative person to join together with people from different disciplines and put that brain power into some really powerful solutions. In fact, one of the best things, one of the biggest reasons why industry comes to us is because our students haven't been doing this stuff for 30 years. And you can think about solutions in a much different way and not discount a potential solution just because of prior experience. You can actually go out and see if that's something that should be pursued and not just make reasons for why it couldn't be possible. We can find out what is possible. So we do have an undergraduate certificate in product innovation, undergraduate certificate in venture creation. Those are individually product innovation and entrepreneurship, essentially. A lot of our students take both. And then we also offer courses in human-centered design or design thinking at the undergraduate level. And then if you combine all of those things and kind of make them a little tougher, that's where we get into the Master of Product Innovation program. And then we also have this 12 credit certificate in healthcare innovation. So the MPI, I'm just going to shorten it to MPI at this point, fewer words, can be completed in anywhere from really 13 months to 2 years, but generally most of our students complete in 13 to 18 months. The program is designed to start in the summer and end in the summer, which has been really beneficial for our students in terms of timeline and getting internships and jobs out in industry. Everything is cross-disciplinary, so we accept students from all different backgrounds into either of these programs. The Master of Product Innovation program, you will have several opportunities both in the classroom and outside of the classroom to work on real product innovation problems and build a portfolio through your capstone, which also gives you the entrepreneurship side of the program. So you can develop products for others and get practice solving those problems, and then you launch into solving your own. In the Graduate Certificate of Healthcare Innovation, this is 6 credits in the Nursing Leadership Program here at VCU through the School of Nursing and 6 credits in the Product Innovation Program. This is a really great partnership we've had with nursing, and really we figured out, hey, we have this great health system at VCU. There are tons of problems. The healthcare system is in such need for solutions, and we have healthcare providers who see the problems every single day but don't necessarily know how to implement a product. And we have people who are interested in product and business and know that there are solutions that are needed, but maybe don't understand regulation or organizational changes or safety regulations and those kinds of things in order to be able to implement, well, to solve for the right problem in a healthcare, for a healthcare product, and then also how to implement that healthcare product. So that program kind of combines these two. So you get some understanding of both and hopefully can utilize us, our network, and be able to make some solutions that really help people and help the world around us. One important thing here is if you are a person who is interested in the MPI and also interested in healthcare, you can do both of these programs, and it's at no additional cost to just what you would pay for the MPI. These 6 credits coming from nursing would directly apply as your electives in the Master of Product Innovation program. And so it more or less just, there's just no added tuition that comes with it. We have several of our master's students who have completed this program, and it just kicked off in fall of 2020. So a really young program, but one that we have a lot of excitement around. All right, so the sequence of courses. So we're just going to start by really looking at a summer start. So as the program is really built to be able to serve our students in the best way. I'll keep this relatively short because otherwise I'm a detail-oriented person. I could give you way too much information that you're just not going to absorb today. So looking at the summer, we offer a couple different courses. INNO 600 is normally covered by the European Innovation Academy experience, where we either go to Italy or to Portugal, and that is the fire hose effect of product development, business launch, and entrepreneurship. So you go from idea to startup in just 3 weeks. Not a lot of businesses directly come out of this, some do, but the whole point is that you get the entire experience in a very short period of time, from the idea of a product to creating prototypes and marketing and pitching to investors. And it's incredibly valuable experience that you get to experience with like 65 different nationalities from around the world, which is pretty intense. You get to be mentored by people from Google and Twitter and Amazon and Kadi and really name big companies, and they send their people there to both give lectures and help teach the students, but also to help mentor. We do plan to be able to travel to Portugal in summer of 2022, pandemic allowing. And they do plan to have some pretty strict requirements, but we should be able to travel to Portugal with those who are comfortable come this summer. We haven't been able to attend for the last 2 years, but they did host a virtual EIA this past summer. That was a really great experience for our students and kind of getting that glimpse. We want to be there in person. There's something about being in another country and being immersed and just constantly living problem solving. The entire time you're there, every experience you have has to do with how to navigate situations and cultural experiences and your team in building a product. The 691 classes are elective courses that we offer. You can take up to 3, or you can take more than 3 credits if you want to. This past summer, we offered a total of 8 credits. So 5 of those were 1 credit courses, and 1 was a 3 credit course that we just launched on innovation, design thinking, and change management. That course currently can be taken in place of the Inno 600, which is the EIA experience. So we do offer an opportunity for you to complete that requirement here in the States, especially just given the pandemic we've lived through for the last couple of years. But some topics that we cover in those 1 credit 691 courses, which really most of them run like 2 to 4 weeks. So they're not super long classes, but it's intellectual property protection, user-based research, UX UI or user experience, user interface, Scrum Master certification, those types of things. So we may have a few different things, maybe toss some prototyping in there this year, but we like to offer up a menu of options so students can kind of form their own program and get what they need, because we do have students who come in with varying degrees of experience. Now come fall is really about learning and practicing design thinking and working on problems that really come from industry and looking at how innovation is done in industry. So the 501 class is an arts and design course, 502 is business, 503 is technology and engineering, and 590 is the course that I'm lucky to teach, which is the project course, where all the things you learn in those other courses get applied to a real life project. This is usually where my talk gets a little long because I like to share some experiences in that. Mary Chris, do you want me to share those now or wait?
No, it's great.
Now it's great. Okay.
Yep.
So these 3 classes, if you come from an arts background, you don't necessarily have to take the arts and design course. Same thing with business or engineering. We do encourage students to take all of these courses. It's no more tuition. Once you reach 9 credits in the program, any other classes you take beyond their credits, you take beyond that, it's a flat price. So 9 credits brings you to the top. You can take up to 15. So taking 12 credits will not be more expensive, but it will be a unique experience in looking at product innovation through a very specific lens, probably something different than you would have gotten in art or business or engineering school if that's where your undergraduate's from. So the 590 course is the product course, and I have so many favorites that I love to talk about this right now. So one that we're working on this semester that I can talk about, because we do have NDAs and IP assignments for a lot of these projects. But one of my favorites that we get to work on, I don't know if you've ever heard of participatory budgeting, but the city of Richmond is looking to take a pot of money to be able to give to our 9 voting districts to make improvements in their community. And those community members get to decide what those projects are, and then the entire community from each district votes on which projects that should actually get the money and be funded to carry forward. We aren't working on how that's going to be used or even soliciting projects from the community. What we are working on is a fair and equitable and accessible voting system for the city, which will hopefully be able to be used for years and years to come. And this is anyone can vote, kids can vote. This I think is kind of the beginning of envisioning how do we help instill trust in the voting structures, and how does, maybe potentially how does voting go digital? And yet still in an accessible way, or how do we do it in a multimodal way that allows for the most members of our community to be able to weigh in on these types of topics. But voting has been a big subject for a long time, and I know our students were really excited to be able to engage in the Richmond community, hear from actual community members in order to figure out how we do this in an equitable and accessible manner. Another option or another example of something that we've done is one of my favorites because it goes beyond just this one class. So it's really fun. So we had a cardiac surgeon who came in and basically had an idea on how to prevent a hematoma after the implantation of a pacemaker. So in a pacemaker, you cut a little hole in the pocket of or you cut a little pocket in your pectoral muscle, and that's where the battery sits, and then you connect the wire to the heart. But about 2% of the time, that pocket fills with blood and plasma, and it causes a lot of pain for the patient. And the current treatments are to put a 10 to 15 pound sandbag on the patient's chest, or take a ball of gauze and just tape it down really tight. So our students were charged with basically taking this idea from this cardiac surgeon and putting it into practice into real life and creating a product that would help prevent people from having to have this weight on their chest, and improve the actual methods of treatment. So these students were able to scrub up and actually go into the surgical room, watch the care providers and how they apply pressure after the surgery to immediately prevent the hematoma. They built a sensor, a pressure sensor, and verified that it is 10 to 15 pounds of pressure that is needed. They were able to invalidate the gauze and the tape because that didn't actually apply barely any pressure at all, and so the hematoma could form independently. But thinking about this, who gets pacemakers, right? We have a general older population. Putting a 10 to 15 pound sandbag on their chest can lead to pneumonia because of the short breathing, just not taking full breaths. And it can land them back in the hospital, and readmission rates are a big deal, always a concern for patients and for insurance companies and for hospitals. So these students ended up creating a brace that goes across the shoulder, attaches via Velcro off to the side. It has a little air bladder right under where or right over where that incision would be, and the same kind of pump that you would use to take blood pressure. The little sensor tells you when you have 10 to 15 pounds of pressure, and now that person can get up, walk around, and be able to breathe normally just by having this brace that's placing specific pressure just on one area of the chest. These students were so successful with this project, they were invited to become part of this startup or part of the founders of this product. They've been included on the patent. They started a company with the cardiac surgeon. Then they were accepted in Mass Challenge down in Austin, Texas. And now this is a product that they are working on licensing and actually getting out into the world and manufacturing. Because it's on the outside of the body, we don't really need a lot of FDA approval, but this is something that could prevent 100% of hematomas. And it was just developed in this class by a tourism and hospitality major, a graphic designer, and a biomedical engineer who hadn't really built physical prototypes or didn't have a lot of experience building physical prototypes. They looked at me like I was crazy when I gave them this project. And by the end, they figured out why. This is about smart people coming together, not necessarily about the backgrounds that you come from. Spring, like I said before, more about the entrepreneurship side of things. This is the first half of the capstone in 0651, where you bring an idea forward. You can borrow one from our health system or a tech transfer office. You can partner with another student. You can partner with someone from outside the program. They just can't attend class. But there's lots of places that you can get ideas. You can work with a local startup too, or if you already have a job, there's like a side project your boss would let you take over and have autonomy over. You can do that for the first half of your capstone. And then if you haven't completed your electives by this point, you would choose another elective. It can either be from a class that we offer, or it can be from many places around campus. And Mary Chris is our expert on all those courses, or at least helping students figure out where they might be able to find the right courses to fulfill a gap that maybe we can't teach that in this specific program. The 652 course, that's the second half of the capstone and how students round this out. They can do it in the summer or in the following fall. 652 pairs with the first half of the capstone in 3 different ways. So you can either continue the project that you started in 651 to launch a business and actually work towards commercialization to produce that product. So continuing that journey, we meet students where they are and help them move forward. We have students starting with new ideas. We have students who already have established products that are looking to scale them as they move forward. So very different kinds of things, but making sure we work with students where they are. Second option is to complete an internship or get a job in the product space. And then you write about that, you share your experiences with your colleagues and with the faculty members there. You create a plan for what your goals are moving forward. If it's an internship, is the goal to get that job? If it is a job, is the goal to get a promotion? Is it to be given more responsibility and manage up and really work your way up in the business? We just have to figure out what your goals are and help you get there. The third option, no one ever chooses because this is an applied program. The third option is a traditional master's thesis. So we've had students that have considered it in the past, and then, maybe they're offered to be a co-founder of a startup for a project they worked on, and they abandon that idea and end up working on the internship side of thing or continuing their 651 project. So ultimately, this whole program is kind of give you the tools and the mindset and what you need to be able to practice this in several different environments. So you have plenty of experience before you go out to interview for jobs or before you go out to do this stuff in the real world. I know I get wordy, Mary Chris.
No, you're fine. It's great. I think like that's sometimes the best way to explain what we do is to go through what the classes that you take are. And often when we're showing that to students, we get questions about whether you can be part-time in our program or have to be full-time. And so we do have an example here of how students could move through that sequence of courses that Allison just talked about in a part-time manner. Some of the classes are only offered, for example, the 500 series, the 501, 502, 503, and 590 are only offered in the fall. So this kind of shows you how that would break down if you wanted to go at this at more of a 2 classes, 6 credits per semester kind of pace. What I think is really amazing about our program being a 13-month program is if you need to slow it down to part-time to balance it with work or family or other things you have going on as the human that you are, it still only takes 2 years. So as someone who went through a traditional master's program part-time, and it took me 4+ years, it's really amazing to think that you can come out in 2 years at a really reasonable pace if you're balancing it with other things. So just like to show this as an example. Students can start on a part-time schedule in the summer as well. This just kind of shows you one example of how that could look. Something I'm always happy to do with students, even prior to coming into the program, is if you really want to sit down and dig into like, what would this look like if I went part-time and started in the summer, I'm happy to kind of plan that out and help you look at that. So much like Garrett said, we're all available to you, and we'll share some general contact information at the end of this that would allow you to get in touch with all of us. But just giving you an idea what that looks like. I do also get questions from students about, is it the same experience if I go part-time? And it is different if you go part-time. I mean, we do tend to have students that move through in a cohort, but we have a student, there's a great information session on our website from Isaiah Harvin, who did go through the program part-time. So if you're considering it and want to hear a student's perspective, not just kind of me repeating that, definitely go check that out. But I think one thing that I talked with Isaiah about, he was a bit nervous about doing it part-time and would he connect with the cohort. What he came out having done is connecting with 2 cohorts. And so I think it really is how you approach it. And if you approach it in the idea of like, actually, I'm going to expand my network by taking part in these fall classes across 2 cohorts and then completing my capstone with a different group of students, it worked out really beautifully for him. And he was really excited about having done it that way. So I will not say it's identical because it is a different experience, but I think there's a positive to that, that you can definitely get from the longer experience. So also just want to cover really quickly how to apply. So we've got that December 15th early deadline coming up. There is, if you're on our page at davincicenter.vcu.edu on the graduate header, you can choose Master of Product Innovation. There's a button that says apply now. And I just want to be really clear that that's going to take you to the VCU Graduate School site. So we would love very much for the user experience to be that you click that and it takes you right to our application, but it takes you actually to this other page. So I'm just pointing out when you get to that other page, you're going to then again click apply now to get into the application for our program. And then you'll be able to choose Da Vinci Center Master of Product Innovation. Also, just a side note, Allison mentioned the graduate certificate in healthcare innovation. If you do want to apply to both, it is 2 separate applications. However, there would not be a separate interview or anything like that. Those would be combined for the 2 programs. And always, if the application fee is something that feels like a barrier, please reach out and let us know. And certainly, if you're applying to both, please reach out so that we can waive one of the 2 fees so that you're not having to pay a fee to submit the application for both the Healthcare Innovation Certificate and the Master of Product Innovation. All right. And then just that's how you get to the application, then what we need. So everything here with a check mark, we definitely need by the 15th for your application to be considered complete. So that is your statement of intent, your resume, names and email addresses of 3 references. So we don't need their references to be in and complete, like you don't need to submit on December 1st so that we can have all that by December 15th. You just need to have their names and emails, and they need to know to expect to get a form. And you need to enter your transcript request in the system. There's also a way for you to upload an unofficial transcript so that your official ones can come later. That statement of intent is really important to us. We really want to get to know who you are as a person. And so when students ask like, what's important on the application, we really do want to know who you are. So really put some time into that statement of intent. What is drawing you to the program? We take people from all different backgrounds. You don't have to have an undergraduate background in innovation or human-centered design or entrepreneurship, but we want to know what your interest in that is and what you, what drew you to the program, and what your goals are and what you hope to get from it. So definitely pay some attention to that. I'll also mention we've got this portfolio optional here. So students do not have to submit portfolios. You'll notice there's some language on our website that indicates if you're a student in School of Arts, coming from a School of Arts background or an arts background, that you do need to submit a portfolio. I'll talk a little bit more about why you don't, but you don't have to. But we would love to see portfolios from all people who are applying to our program. And so if you are coming from an arts background, that can look very much like a traditional arts portfolio that you would submit. But if you're coming from a political science background and you have some amazing research you did in your undergrad, you could include that in a portfolio for us. If you've been working for a while and you have projects that you've taken a lead on or been part of implementing and you want to share a presentation or share something that you worked on, we would love to see that kind of thing as well.
Or done professionally.
Yes.
If you've been out in the world and it's okay for you to be able to share those things, and you could omit things if necessary, if it's not all shareable. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you think about this as kind of, as more and more people are kind of creating professional websites where they're highlighting kind of their skills and talents, those are also fine. So this can be a PDF portfolio of materials that you've created, but we also certainly have students send us links to a professional website that showcases all different kinds of work that they've done. And so we love that because it's just a way to get to know you better. And we value that a lot more, that and the statement of intent, what your references have to say about you, a lot more than standardized testing. And so you will also notice that you may see some language around GRE or GMAT being required for students who are coming from business or engineering backgrounds or humanities and sciences backgrounds. We do not require that for any student. And so very similarly, we don't require the portfolio for art students because we don't have that bonus requirement. So we'd love to see a portfolio from all of you. No standardized testing required for anyone coming into the program.
I just want to add this. So these are changes that we made over COVID.
Yeah, yes.
And so they are still showing on our website because we are restricted in how often we can change that information. So we can't just like pop in the bulletin and change that information. So you'll see it with different words there, but follow this. And in fall of 2022, all of that language will change. It's already been submitted. We just have to wait for the school to actually enter the right information. So we'll have a little bit of a conflict of interest on the website versus here, or info on the website versus here.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, thank you for that. And yes, we truly do not require these things. So spread the word also if you know people that are looking at the program and feel intimidated by the things that take a while to change. So as we mentioned, we would love to have you stay in touch. What I've got here is just our website and a general email address that's pretty easy to remember, davincicenter@vcu.edu. Allison and I can also put our emails in the chat. We're happy for you to reach out directly, but know that if you do email this account, your message will make it to the right person. This is monitored by 2 human beings in our office. And so it will make its way to who it needs to get to. But that being said, we will stop here and happy to take, again, Andrea, not to put you on the spot, but happy to take any questions that you have, if you have any.
Sorry, my cat, I think, just turned my sound off. Can you hear me?
We
Yes.
can hear you. Yes.
Okay. And I apologize to the people listening to the recording because I feel like this is going to be just a me-centric Q&A. But I have a question about, it sounds like, you know, you have people that come from all different backgrounds. And just to give you a little bit of background about myself, I have an undergraduate degree in architecture, but I also have an MLIS, a library science degree, and an MFA in book art. So
art is cute, just saying.
I feel like perhaps I'm like, I maybe have too many degrees, and I'm wondering if you have students that come in with like a lot of degrees, and if that is not a benefit, it's maybe detracts against the candidate because they seem a little bit too much like a dilettante, I guess.
I mean, I wouldn't think so. People who are figuring out where they want to go and what they're interested in, I think that is a noble path, and to be on that path and figure out where you want to go. It is never too late to try anything. And the oldest student I've ever had was 70 years old, and she was the top of her class in the School of the Arts and absolutely amazing. So we have had students that have other master's degrees apply and come into the program. In fact, one of them we hired to teach our undergraduate arts course, and he also teaches in the Center for Creative Economy, but he previously had an MFA before coming in for the MPI. So he is teaching things like UX UI, and he does teach more traditional stuff like drawing to our business, engineering, humanities students. But we didn't flinch when we saw the added degree. I don't see that as a negative thing. I hold 4. So you're not going to get that judgment from me anyway.
No, and I think it's like the cross-disciplinary nature of what we do. And sometimes that does look like you having multiple degrees past the undergraduate level. And I think that's just fine. We just had a student come through who was simultaneously finishing up a master's in education at another university and taking our MPI. So yeah, we definitely don't have any problem with that. If it's something where you're kind of wanting to change direction a little bit or add some additional skills on, I think cross-disciplinary is cross-disciplinary, whether that's undergrad or graduate level.
Yeah, we even have a dual degree with the School of Business for an MBA and an MPI. We don't talk about it very often because it's not something that a lot of people pursue. We've had a couple students go through it, but you know, you get 2 master's degrees in one, just in case you're looking for an extra one.
Enough. Another question that I had, and I'm really just, I came across your program because I was looking into industrial design and product design, but I wanted something a little bit more holistic. I think that on the design side, I understand designing things and physical products, but I definitely don't have a background in production or business. So is my perception of the program correct, that it is really a holistic program, that you're thinking from like the very beginning to the very end of the development of something? It might not be a material thing, but it often is a material thing.
Okay, so we get this all the time in terms of industrial design. We do look at the holistic experience going from beginning to end. It's challenging to do that in a real life scenario. If you're starting with a brand new idea, to validate that idea, go through your user testing and prototyping and all of the entire stage and design thinking, or producing that to production and manufacturing and all of that. That's a tough thing to do in a very short period of time, especially when we're talking about starting that in January and ending that in August or December. So that's something that can take years. The great thing is that we don't disappear just because students graduate. So we have students who are producing their products now, but it took them a little while after they got out in order to set up those relationships and actually make that happen. We have continuously linked them to our network, and we push hard to get a student as close to commercialization as we can, or to help them scale. So if it's something you already have, we can meet you where you are and get you that much further. But it is a pretty great challenge to get to the manufacturing part, large scale manufacturing, by the end of this program. Just trying to be honest about where it is. But in terms of making sure you have the right problem and finding the right solutions for those problems, and then being connected with the right people in order to get the funding you need, the support you need to build the team you need. Those are definitely things we help students get these things off the ground pretty regularly.
Great, thank you. And I guess the last question I have, and again, forgive me, I haven't done an extensive amount of research,
Right here.
but do you have examples of students who graduate who don't necessarily start their own business or company, and like what those jobs might look like, or if this degree is a recognizable degree to places that are hiring people that, you know, come from the program?
Yes, understand those concerns, absolutely. So we have tons of students who go into industry. Garrett was speaking earlier of Isaiah Harvin. He is the person who was recruited from Richmond, from his network in Richmond, to go run product for HBO Max. He comes from a marketing background, and he has some pretty extensive experience in doing marketing research and those kinds of things. So just to give the context of like where he's coming from. But to be brought in to run product, his MPI definitely had something to do with that. It also helps that he's a co-founder of a startup. We have had students, so we do have students that like I said earlier, that change degrees a great deal. And we are starting to see more and more industry partners specifically asking for things with the term product innovation in it. CarMax, much more of a tech company than they are a car company, as most people would assume, and they are super focused on user-centric design. We have so many students, faculty, alumni that are part of the CarMax team because it's very in line with what we're teaching in the program. They're a very progressive organization. I will say this, our students don't really have a problem getting jobs.
Good to hear. I have a job now. I'm just, you know, I want to know what the options might be after this. And
let me go higher level and answer your question a little bit better. Most of our students, if they don't start their own company, they will most likely become product managers, go into leadership if they already have some experience, become UX UI researchers, business strategists. There's quite a few different places that the tools that we teach work in. And so you kind of we've been calling students unicorns, but I'm pretty certain chameleon might be a better option. We've had students who are like, if you want to do anything, Da Vinci is everything. And like that like just makes my heart smell.
Great. This has been really informative to me, and I really appreciate the time that you two have taken, or all three of you have taken to present.
Well, absolutely. And if you have more questions at any point, and this goes for everyone on the recording, if you have questions or you would like to have a one-on-one or engage in a conversation, Garrett, Mary Chris, and I are truly at your disposal. Please, email us and let us know. You can email that Da Vinci email address, and it will get to us very quickly. And we can set up a time. But we want to make sure that this is a right fit for you. We're not here to convince you to join a program that isn't a good fit. And we'll just be honest about what we can provide in the time that you're here. That makes for a good experience for everyone.
Yeah. And thank you so much for your questions, Andrea. You were saying it was going to end up being a very kind of centered on your questions, but I always say that people have questions that other people have. And so thank you for asking those, because those are all questions that I'm sure other people listening had. So I really appreciate you jumping in and asking them, because I'm sure someone else wanted that answered.
All right. Well, thank you. And I probably will be in touch sometime soon.
Awesome.
Okay,
Great.
excellent. Have a wonderful day, and thank you very much. Thank you everybody for coming, and reach out to us if you would like to talk about the program a little bit more.
Thank you.
Yeah. Have a good night.